Welcome from the Sanctuary of Worship Presbyterian Church. What does it mean when Jesus says, "We are the light of the world"? We live in a world where we take light for granted. Because of electricity, we can't even see the stars at night. But imagine a world, the world of Jesus, where when you blew out your candle at night, it was so pitch dark that you could not even see your hand in front of you. Then imagine how scary it could be, not being able to see what is outside or around you. And so light, when you lit that candle, would dispel it all. So when we read from the gospel and hear Jesus talk about us as the light of the world, that is what he meant. We dispel the darkness by our very being present. In 2017, white supremacists and nationalists gathered in Charlottesville, Virginia, for the Unite the Right rally. At the same time, anti-racist protesters also descended on Charlottesville. Now, pastors across the country realized that this is spelling trouble. And so clergy from across the country drove and flew down to Charlottesville, all of them trained in peaceful protesting and passive resistance. And on that day, as white nationalists passed the anti-racist protesters, they would cuss at them and yell at them, racial slurs and homophobic slurs. And as the mood started to change, as you could feel the tensions rise, the pastors and the clergy linked arms, one next to the other, and they formed a wall between the anti-racist protesters and the white supremacists. And they kept on throwing these slurs, and they kept on cussing at them. And suddenly one of the lead pastors, Reverend Seiko, said to himself, "I need to do something." And so he started to sing "This Little Light of Mine." And as he started to singing, the clergy next to him started to joining in. This whole wall starts to sing "This Little Light of Mine," and they sing it at the top of their voices. And soon the anti-racist crowd start to join them. Young and old, white and black, gay and straight, singing all louder and louder and louder, "This little light of mine, let it shine." And it started to drown out the slurs and the cussing, until at last the nationalists and the supremacists went quiet. Later, Pastor Aseko would say, they just didn't know what to do with this joy, and we were not going to let darkness have the last say. This little rhyme, this little song that we all know from Sunday school, "This Little Light of Mine," is based on words of Jesus. It comes from the Sermon on the Mount that he preached, and we read about it in the book of Matthew. And he tells his followers how to live in the kingdom of God, how to live as a follower of Jesus. We are reading from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verses 14 to 16, using the Message translation. Here is another way to put it. You are here to be light, bringing out the God colors in the world. God is not a secret to be kept. We are going public with this, as public as a city on a hill. If I make you light bearers, you don't think I'm going to hide you under a bucket, do you? I'm putting you on a light stand. Now that I've put you there on a hilltop, on a light stand, shine. Keep open house. Be generous with your lives. By opening up to others, you will prompt people to open up with God, this generous Father in heaven. This is God's word for us today. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Light and darkness cannot exist together. Where there is light, darkness cannot be. And if you listened carefully to the reading I just did, you would have heard Jesus doesn't say you should go out and be the light or you should become the light. Jesus says, you are the light. I make you the light. I put you on a hill. I put you on a light stand. That is your very identity as a child of God. That is your God-breathed dignity. You are the light of the world. And you know, for me as a pastor, one of the most rewarding things is to see when people in the congregation that I serve discover this truth about themselves, that this light of God is in them already, and they just have to live it out. And when they do, it changes them profoundly. It empowers them, and it fills them with joy and thankfulness. You know, we at this church have had a food pantry for more than 30 years. And usually on a Monday morning, we serve about 120 people. And then COVID happened. And overnight, we went from serving 120 people to 1,600 on a Monday morning. Just the logistics involved to make that switch within a week is incredible. We had these long lines lining up on a Monday morning of clients stretching around the block, and in between them were people who were compromised, who really should not be standing in line waiting for food for hours. The chance for them to get sick was so much higher and so much more dangerous if they did. And so we decided we're going to start delivering bags. We will on a Sunday pack the bags and then let people drive to people's homes and deliver it. Now, one of our congregants, Glenn, has been helping for years at the food pantries, and so Glenn was one of the people I asked. So he and his husband would come on a Sunday morning when we would have had church, help pack all the thousands of bags for the next day, then pack the very specifically put together bags for those who we're going to deliver to, and then go deliver it, which means there goes his whole Sunday. But Glenn, without even hesitating, immediately said yes. And he's been doing this for the past 7 months. As I watch Glenn being involved in a food pantry like this and what it does for him, it just warms my heart. Because what he's discovered at his time here at church is that he is the light. And no matter what he does, it can't be hid under a bushel. It can't be hid under a bucket. It can't but be the light. And when he is the light, it fills him with joy. Here is his story.
I am so glad to have the opportunity to talk about what this church means to me, and in particular, the food pantry. I was telling the pastor earlier that it took me 48 years to finally find a church where I felt completely loved and accepted. I walk through this door and at these doors and I feel like I can't do anything wrong. And there are two places on the earth where I feel that way, in the arms of my spouse and in this church. And I feel like it's such a privilege. And when I come here and when I work in the food pantry, I'm not looking at other people's poverty or how they got there or whatever it is. I just know that I have to give love. And so I'm packing and packing and packing, and I have no idea who it's for. I just know that I love them. It's that easy. It's such a gift being here. It took me 48 years to find this church, and I finally found it. In the food pantry, like I said, I think we're doing the work of God's hands and feet, and it is such a privilege. It makes me feel better about myself. I have to say that I'm selfish about it. I am selfish about working at the food pantry because it gives me the opportunity to feel really good. I walk away with so much more than I give. And sometimes when I go make deliveries, I realize that I have a really privileged life, and that makes me feel like it's even more important. I just grew up hating to have to go to church, And now I'm a little giddy. It's a little strange. I'm a little giddy about going to church, and I'm not afraid to share that.
Everywhere I go, I'm going to let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Now you may wonder, why did Reverend Sekou decide to sing This Little Light of Mine at the protest in Charlottesville? Isn't it just a little Sunday school song? You know, the thing you sing at camps and at Sunday school. It's such an easy little song. It's just, let my little light shine. Well, you may not know this, but it's also the anthem of the civil rights movement. See, we actually don't know where the song comes from. Nobody really knows its origins. It is just a folk song that over time became a spiritual, because it speaks unwavering hope to darkness. And so during the civil rights era, when singers, the freedom singers, started to write freedom songs, they would take old hymns and they would repurpose them for the civil rights protest, and let this little light of mine shine just reverberated through the protest. It settled the nerves of protesters as they walked, facing abusive police officers that would beat them with billy clubs. It helped them not to be afraid. When all of them were singing, it made them feel just a little bit less alone and just a little bit more free. Suddenly you could speak to truth to power without being shot. You could say what you feel and think, and you were singing it. And it became this powerful song that empowered people, and it reverberated through time. It is sang today at protests, just like in the 1960s, whether it is at a women's movement protest, or at a Me Too movement, or at the Black Lives Matter protest. Because every single time it's able to do the same thing, empower people, to speak truth to power, to address injustice. It is a rallying cry. It speaks the truth of the gospel, and it brings light where evil flourishes. It shows it, it exposes it. And as I was thinking about that and what this song proclaims, I kept on thinking of the people in my church who is slowly but surely during this pandemic discovering that they've been the light all along, and how empowering it is to realize, I'm going to let my light shine. And there's nothing that can stop it. One of the guys in our church, Kobie, showed up one Sunday morning for church to check out if we will have church in person. And at that time, we were not doing church in person because it was totally shut down. But he discovered we were doing food pantry. And he stayed and helped pack. And then a week or two later, I asked him, Kobie, do you want to start delivering? And he said, yes, I will deliver. And that put Kobie on a journey of discovery. You see, what the light does when you live out this light, this God-given light that you received, it shows to you a world that you were not aware of. You know, the world we don't see if we don't live in it, the world of the marginalized and the poor and the voiceless and the forgotten. It shows that world to us, because that's where the light will take you. Here is Kobie's story.
So I started coming for a few Sundays, helping out in the food pantry. And then Pastor Kobie told me we can start delivering to some of the people. They usually come to the food pantry, but since there's a pandemic happening, we can start delivering to them instead. I was like, okay, I don't know what to expect. I'm going to be coming in someone's home, delivering their food and things like that. So I have no idea what it is, how it's going to be. So, okay, try it out and see what happens. It was a time when I didn't know how it was with other people and how they live and their way of life. And it was very difficult to see. But it's one person that I delivered to. And his name was Ilan. And Ilan was an old Oh man, about 79 years old when I started delivering to him. He lives on his own, basically. A single apartment, small one. Um, and in the beginning, I just come in and out, drop out the food, I come out, I'm done. As I got used to it, I got a little comfortable doing the part and realizing what I'm doing is far greater than who I am. It's helping people out, and that's my take on delivering these foods. It's not just you're just delivering food; you're delivering hope. You know, especially with Elon, he walks, every Monday to the food pantry before the whole pandemic started, and it's not like he walks regularly. He walks with a hunch. His back is, he walks basically like a 90 degrees and holding on to his cart. And just the fact that he walks really slow, it makes me realize like how hard it is for this man to be able to haul all these groceries with this little cart into his apartment. And I started talking to him more. One day I delivered to him, and as I put down the groceries that I'm delivering, I saw a bunch of DVDs lined up on this table. And I looked, and I was like, huh. I looked around, I looked around this apartment, and I didn't see any TV, I didn't see any DVD players, nothing. And I was like, wonder what he's doing. And so I asked him after I delivered the food to him, I asked him, oh, is there anything else you need? Or is there anything that I can help you with? And then he goes, I would really appreciate, or I would really want to have a TV, because I haven't had a TV in a long time, and I wanted to watch some of my movies. I'm like, okay. Let me see what I can do. I thought about it and spoke to my wife about it, and like, okay, well, we have some TVs, older TVs that we had that we haven't used, and it's just in the storage. I spoke to Glenn. We kind of talked about Elon too, because he had delivered some groceries to him as well when I couldn't do it at certain times, and I sort of mentioned about the TV situation, and he said, "Oh, we have a DVD player, we have an antenna too. I'll deliver it to him and I'll install it." And so I did. I delivered the TV to him and I installed it, and it's just the look on his face when I was putting it together, when it's finally done, and turn on the TV and turn on the DVD player, and he's able to watch his movies. It's just that joy that he had on his face, that smile. And then we just started talking to each other. We talked about his life, when he started coming to LA. He's the only one left in his family. And we were just having conversation. I talked about my life, my kids. He was so surprised when I had 4 kids, and until one day that I came to his apartment and I saw 2 police officers at the end of the hallway, and they told me I couldn't go any further. It turned out that he had passed away. It was hard. I mean, my heart breaks. I was thankful to God that I was able to help this man for the last remaining months that he had on this earth, and also thankful to God that he was able to open my eyes and how other people live, and it's not always the same how I live, and there are far more people out there who needs help and who are living way below what we think how people live. And it's not like that until you actually open yourself up and you actually go into their home and you see the struggles that they have. I will never forget Elon, and I'll continue on, whatever God wants me to do. I know He will use me again one of these days, and I'll be willing to. God bless you, Elon. I hope that you're listening, and I know you are, and I will miss you, you're the Lord now, and welcome home.
Jesus gave it to me. I'm going to let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Not only does Jesus give us this light, but he says, I'm not going to allow you to hide it under a bucket. I'm putting you on a hill. I'm putting you on a light stand. Your light's going to shine, no matter what. And there's somebody in our church, when I think of her, that's what comes to my mind. Cassandra is this quiet, patient, kind, and loving person, sometimes even unassuming. But you would totally misjudge her if you think that is who she is, because she has this burning light in her. We can describe her as an immigrant. You can describe her as a mom. She has 4 kids, young kids. And when all of this of COVID happens, and all of us would have little kids who have to struggle how to homeschool, she had to do that too. But not only that. You see, not only is she an immigrant and a mom and a wife, she is also a nurse. And she is a nurse that works in a care facility. And not only is she a nurse who works in a care facility, she's a nurse who works in a care facility in the COVID ward. That just blew my mind. About 3 months ago, I asked her, why you keep on doing this, Cassandra? This must be scary to you. Your husband earned a really good income. You could stay home. You could resign. And she looked at me like I was from a different planet. She said to me, Pastor Kobie, I can't abandon my patients. This is my calling. I could never walk away from him. And so she worked long shifts. She works 12-hour shifts. And then she comes home and she has to take off all her clothes in the garage so that she can make sure that she doesn't bring anything home to her family that could make them sick. And when she waits to hear if her test is positive or negative, she lives in a hotel room away from her family to keep them safe. And yet she does this week after week, month after week, no matter how tired she gets. Because this light that God has given her cannot be extinguished. It keeps on burning brighter the darker this pandemic and this crisis around us become. Here is Cassandra.
I am a LVN, a licensed vocational nurse. I work in a skilled nursing facility with a 24-hour service. For me, being a nurse is to go above and beyond to the call of duty, the first one to work and the last one to live. Being a light in this pandemic is when I think about all the patients that I've taken care of over the years, and I know most of them doesn't remember me, but I know that I gave them a little piece of me. I know in this time of pandemic, it's very hard for our patients and their families because they cannot see their loved ones. All we can do to help them is to take care of our patients, make sure they're all right. As a nurse, we have the opportunity to heal the mind, heart, and body of our patients and their families too, and ourselves too. I know it's really hard for my family too in this time of pandemic because I'm doing all this, taking care of COVID patients. I know sometimes for a fact that I myself is scared too, but I do all the things I need to do. After going to work, I would change my clothes in the garage, put on a new clothes, and then go straight to the bathroom and take a bath before I can even hug them or kiss them or mingle with them. That's our protocol at home. Every time I would go home is to disinfect myself first before I can even hug them. Both of us is working, but Dodi's helping much more with the kids in school. I know it's tough too with the online learning. It's tough for the parents, but we gotta work. We did what we have to do. I cannot just give up because I'm a nurse and My desire is to help other people and to serve them and to take care of them. Every time I get stressed or I get scared, I just pray, and after praying, you will give me like strength to move on with my day and empower my CNAs. Hey, let's do this, let's do that. I just wish that this pandemic ends already, so we can move on with our lives just the way we had it before. I'll leave you with a saying that save one life, you're a hero. Save 100 or 1,000 lives, you're a nurse. Thank you.
You are the light of the world, are Jesus' words to his followers. You are the light of the world, Jesus said so long ago. You are the light of the world, Jesus declares today. You. So let your light shine. There is a light within you that is good. There is a light within you that is of God. There is a light within you that needs to be seen. You are the light of the world. Amen.